Hey there, Internet friends. Larry the Music Guy here. Today we're going to continue on with part 2 of our discussion about the DMXis interface solution for DMX lighting control. Had so much information in the last video that I actually had to break it down into 2 videos. There's so much to really learn about software. It's hard to cram it all into a 10-15 minute video. But today we're going to dive into taking a look at the actual software. I'll show you a screen capture on my computer so we can kind of walk through how you program a fixture, how you can set up scenes, things like that. So we're going to get down to it right after this. Alright guys, what we got here is this is my rack setup for my guitar system. Right down here is the DMXis device that was showing you earlier. On the back side of that I've got a USB port on the back side of there, and I'm plugged into that, and I'm coming up into my computer up here. And I got my software that comes up on my Macintosh up here. So this is my rig now. I need to tell this software to basically change scenes and settings in there, and I do that with my foot pedal board that resides right here. So I'm running a USB that goes every time I gig to the back side of my rack, and on that rack right there I've got basically a managed router for all my Midi. Comes into a managed router right here, and then I can basically go in and mask out channels so I don't have crosstalk with my Midi channels. So everything kind of terminates right here, and then interprets everything, and then keeps everything separate. It was not a fun program to set up, but once you get it set up, it's pretty slick. So that's kind of my rig right here. So I'm back in my studio, and right now I'm hooked up via USB to my Mac laptop, and I'm setting that down here. And what we're going to do is show you how this software works on my laptop here. The first thing I want you to notice is when this comes up, it says connected right up there. So that's pretty critical that you kind of look for that. I'm going to get this position over here. Now I can't make this any bigger than what it is, so I'll put that there. And what I want to show you here is, so there's 2 different tabs here. This tab is what they call the preset manager right there. So I'm going in between the preset manager and basically the actual programs and in the channels themselves. So this view right here, so this is my bank. It's Crazy Delicious 2021. These are all my scenes over here on this side right there. So you'll see I've got quite a few different scenes. Now I didn't start out that way, that kind of accumulated over the years. At the end you'll kind of see some things that are specific. I got a backline color morph. I got a certain specific scene right here for a specific song that has a breakdown where the drums kind of activate the lights through the sound portion of the software, and the lights themselves where they're activated when the drums are going to a specific beat. I've got like a strobe setting here so I can do a strobe effect. So, but the way I laid mine out is in different kinds of formats based on color. So I've got a white, my first 4 are white, my next 4 are blue, my next 4 are red, green, yellow, and so I'm doing all yellow, all purple, all aqua. And then you come down here where I'm doing white and red, white and blue, white and green, white and purple. But before we get into that too much further, I need to take you to the next screen that really shows you how you get into programming each one of these. So I'm going to select a scene. So it's called an all-white fan. So when you see me go in here to the software, what this is saying, this Flurry Q Limited 12 channel, what that is saying, it's a DMX fixture that I have it set up to utilize the 12 channel mode. Now I know it has multiple channels. I think it has like 4, 9, and 12 channels. But when I've got these 12 channels, what that's telling me, it's going to give me control over the pan. There's a pan fine adjustment. There's a tilt. There's a tilt fine adjustment. This is the overall dimming. So right now it's at 100%. I've got a red, green, blue, and a white feature. So because this is white, you see that the white slider is almost up. It looks like it's at 95%. Now this is a color channel that will take you through different colors automatically instead of trying to figure out how to blend red, green, and blue together to create a different color. You can come over here and it's like a color swatch. This is the strobe effect. And this is the sound intensity. So if I want the lights to be activated by sound, I can tell it how sensitive I want it to be to that based on the microphone input level. So right here, these are 12 channels. So if you come up here, you'll see it doesn't list the 12 channels up above anymore. But starting right here, you'll see 13, 14, 15, 16. I'm not using those. The reason I do that is because these are laid out in basically sets of 16. So I basically left those last 4 open, came down and ran another of the same kind of light fixture right below it, and you'll see that the pan is consistent below it. If I started it at this next one, it's not as easy to edit. So I'm going to show you as I flip through the pages here of the channels, of the 512 channels. I'm going to go to the next page. So this next page is going to be starting at 33 right there. Now it does not list it once you assign a fixture to it, but you'll see that these last 4 channels here are open again. So as I page through, it consistently has the pan on these 2 lights, and all of these lights of these type of lights are going to be the very first channel is the pan. The nice thing is that as you're going through and editing, you know that your pan is right there every single time. So as you can see here, I'm going through each one of these different pages. So these Flurry Q Limited are the moving lights that were in the back row of our show. So I want to show you something here real quick. I'm going to go to a blue mover. Now I'm going to come back to the preset manager and get back into it. What you're going to see here is in this program that blue is up 93 out of 100. But what's cool is it's showing you how the pan and the tilt are moving to create that moving effect. So pan will be like your left to right movement, and your tilt will be your up and down. So when you combine those together, you can get really cool different kinds of movements. So I like to make my movements all a little bit different. But once you create that movement, you save it. If you copy this actual scene, what you can do is you can copy it and then go in and change the colors. So if you like that movement style, it's the way around kind of. This doesn't have great macros, so I'm going to show you real quick here, the macros up here. So macros is supposed to be a way of kind of creating some templates and then be able to take that template and create a new scene. I know a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, I've heard some other software programs will allow you to create a macro for the actual light color. So you're saying on this macro, I want it to be all blue. And then you create a different macro that says this is a movement macro. And then you can combine those two macros together. Say I want to combine the blue macro with the blue movement, and then that creates one scene, and do that way. This does not have that ability, so it's a little bit, it's really about the only disappointment that I have in the software, really at all, is the macros are kind of limited. But the way around that is to go in and basically create a scene with the color. I think the movement is harder to duplicate, so take the movement, copy the movement, change the colors. So if I wanted to come in here and change that color, I would simply, and watch this, I'll double tap on this. What that did was is I chose the blue bar on every single one of those Flurry Q limited lights. So now if I wanted to change that blue, I could come down here, pull the slider down. So right now the lights would not have any color at all. They would be just pretty much off. So let's say I wanted to change this to a red. I double click that. So versus single clicking it, does one. If I double click it, basically only for the Flurry Q limited lights, I've chose the green slider bar on all of those lights that I have a fixture assigned in there. So now if I want to turn this into a green, I just created that, made that scene a green scene. So now I'd have to go back in over here and basically copy it and then rename it all green mover. But what I'm going to do is here, just so I don't override what I have in there, I'm going to click on it because I didn't save it. So now I'm going to go back into that all blue mover, and you'll see when I go back in there, the blue is still up. So it doesn't save anything until you go in and you save it. So as soon as you move out of a scene, it basically goes back to what it was before. So you have to save it before you move into another scene. So the hardest part about getting this all set up is basically figuring out what type of lights you have and going out and trying to find the fixtures. So what I'm going to show you here right now is I'm going to click on this, and I right clicked on it, and it's going to say fixture library. So right now I have that Flurry Q limited fixture assigned to channel number 1 on the software, and I'm saying I want 12 channels starting at channel number 1. But if I wanted to change that to something else, this is where I would do it. So I right clicked on that slider, and I come over here and I look for whatever manufacturer I'm looking for. So like Blizzard Lighting's a pretty popular, so it's pretty supported. You see they've got a lot of their different, which is one of the lights that we're using is a Blizzard. So you'll see QFX when we get down here in a little bit. You're going to see that we've got a QFX 9 channel and a QFX 3 channel option on that. But I'm not going to change that fixture because I don't want to do that. I just wanted to show you that that's how you assign a fixture. So if I wanted to come over here and assign, so channel 13 is not being used, I come here, right click it. So if I wanted to assign a Par 64 1 watt 3 channel right here, I do that, and you'll see what happened is it renamed it at the top here, and it was a 3 channel light. So it gives me red, green, and blue, and there they are. And do the fixture library and say no fixture. Or once again, I could have just gone to my preset manager and just without saving and hopped to another scene, and I would have come back and there wouldn't have been anything in there. So let me just real quick roll you through my software channels here. So as I tab through this, I now have a different light fixture up here. This is called the QFX 9 channel. So this is our lights for our front of our house, and they are a fixed light, so they do not move. So you will not see any kind of movement type parameters here. So basically I got a dim, a strobe, a color. So this is like your color palette. You choose what color. This is where you can set up the speed of a strobe honestly, I don't even hardly use many of these except for the color, the dim, and the strobe here. There's different programs that will have like morphing, where lights morph in and out of colors. I don't use that a whole lot, but that's that. So that's our front lights, and you'll see I've got like 4 pages of that. Now this next one is called the Storm Chaser 31 channel. So I am literally, this is one light fixture. All of these sliders here are for one light fixture. So what it's done is it's the light bars that were on top of our moving lights in the back row behind the drummer. Basically, when you do 31 channels, it gives you control over every single light module. So I'm literally going through and controlling each individual. So what this is doing, it's creating a movement effect where the light is looking like it's almost like a scrolling display. So the lights are kind of channeling through. So this actually, when you get in there and you're looking at what the light's doing, it'll show you the movement when you're on that preset. So I've got 2 of those lights. I've got 2 different pages. And as you see, I'm using every single 32 channels there, except for this very, very last channel is open. It's not being used on both pages. So channel 256, channel 288. Now this comes into the next page after that. These are some UV, basically black lights that we used to use. And we do use from time to time. They're really bad for attracting bugs outside at night. At least up here in Iowa they are. So we really don't use them a lot, but I figured what the heck, I'm going to leave them programmed. If we ever use them, they're all programmed and ready to go. So as you see on this scene, in this setting, I'm not using them at all because these sliders are actually all the way down. These are some other older lights that we used to use. I could probably delete these. I doubt that I would use these again. But once again, once they're in your program, if you just leave them there and you ever add them to your show, they'll be there and you're basically just plugging them in. So you'll see, I mean, we've got not a super big light show, but we do quite a bit with a little bit of lights that we do have. But you'll see here, out of 512 total channels, after all my lights, even my backup lights I don't use anymore, starting at 353, I'm wide open. So I've got 4 additional pages of 32 channels still available to use on the software. One last thing I want to show you here. And that's pretty much it in the software, with the exception of, I need to show you, you got to go into preferences here. And this is where you will set up some different settings. What we're really concerned about are the audio MIDI settings here. But real quick, I'll just go over it since I got it opened up. You got it for check for updates on start. I got that enabled. Synced to incoming MIDI clock. I've got that enabled. What that does is, since I'm using my Helix foot pedal board, if I've got a tap tempo set up, which I almost do for every single song, so that I'm really in the ballpark with all my digital delays. So, you know, while we're playing the song, I tap tempo, and then I usually save it, and it's usually done. But with that tempo will actually send a tap tempo message to my software. And what that does is when I've got like that movement, or I've got strobes where lights are coming on and off, it's actually syncing to the tempo that my Line 6 Helix is telling this software to go at a certain tap tempo. So that's pretty cool. What that will do is it make your lights kind of move really close to being in time with the song that you're playing. Now that won't work if your tap tempo isn't right for every single song, but the way I run my show is I have a preset for every single song we do, because I'm controlling my lights. I'm controlling my vocal processor and some other various MIDI things that I basically have to set up a preset for every single song I do with everything that I'm controlling. So that is what the sync to incoming MIDI clock is. This tap tempo via Midi Cc, if I turned that on and enabled it, it would allow me to literally tap tempo on my Helix, like in real time, and tell it how I want the tempo to be interpreted in the software. Because all mine are set up already in my foot pedal board, I don't have that enabled. So just in case I accidentally step on it, I actually don't send misinformation. So I left that off. So if you come up here and hit this other tab, you'll have a couple things. Output, I don't worry about an output. I don't use that. Right now it's wanting for any audio sensitive information for the lights. So in other words, if I want a light to trigger when a kick drum goes on, basically I can tell the software to listen to my built-in microphone in my laptop. Now you can also go in and say that you want to listen to my PreSonus Fire Studio, which is what my in-studio interface is. So if I wanted to pull a channel from that, like the kick drum channel, and only have the light trigger from the kick drum channel, I can do that. Just to keep things simple, and it's one less thing to hook up at every gig. I just use the built-in microphone, so it's hearing the drums, the snare, the kick, you know, all of the things that really are loud trigger, and then you go and you set the sensitivity level so that it's only triggering, it's not staying on all the time. You got to find the sweet spot where it's actually doing the effect, but I use the built-in microphone. So right now you don't see any active MIDI inputs because I'm not hooked up to my rig through my Mio 4 MIDI router. So right now it's only seeing my 88 note keyboard over here, and it could be basically, I could trigger stuff from that if I wanted, but it's not seeing what I have set up because I brought this in my studio to show you how it works, so I could actually run it through my browser and show you how to do that. I can't do that out there very easily anyway. So that is it, but the really big thing is you have to assign where you want the MIDI input to be, so where it listens to the MIDI channel. And it's been a long time since I set this up, but if I recall correctly, this only listens to MIDI channel 16. So if you have something else assigned in your MIDI implementation for channel 16, you'll have to assign it to something else, because this only listens to traffic on channel 16. So I had a Line 6 Helix demo in a previous video that I'll leave a link below here as well, and you'll see there that it's assigned to MIDI channel 16. So maybe one of the limitations of the software, but really is it that big of a deal? I mean, you got 16 MIDI channels. I'm only using like 4 MIDI channels, so it was pretty easy for me to find another available MIDI channel to run other various MIDI effects. So that is about it for that. So with that being said, I mean, it's really a pretty slick little hardware software setup, and for the money and the time, once you go in and you set it all up, and you don't change foot pedal boards or something like that, because I've actually done that, and it does. Every time you change anything in your MIDI implementation system, you know, it's going to take some more reprogramming. So just keep that in mind. I went from a Pod HD 500 to my Helix, and I actually used the software in the Pod HD 500, and I had to go remap everything out all over again, even though the software, the DMXis software, I didn't have to change anything because it was all set up already, but I had to go back in and basically repoint all of the MIDI commands to change the different scenes throughout the song. So hopefully you got something out of this, and until next time, we'll see you at the next video. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. That's awesome. You really do rock. Appreciate you hanging around. If you like what you watched here today, please subscribe, ring that bell down below. We're going to be talking about lots of different things about being a musician. Everything from being in a band, running a band, booking a band. We'll talk about recording in a home studio, writing your own songs. We'll be doing product reviews and anything else we find darn interesting about music. So if you find that darn interesting, please subscribe, ring that bell. But more than anything, remember to get on out there and guitar done.